Had a great set of introductions on the issue of water resources and water, energy, and food nexus, and we have an important collection of experts here. I would like to actually start maybe with you, Fernando, if I may, to help us kind of bring this down to the ground a bit. We talked about the peculiarities of the region. You're a hydrologist, you're a water engineers. Help us understand what is particular about this region. What is special about Latin America when we're talking about water and the food and energy nexus?
Sure. Thanks everybody, and welcome to LAC Focus Day. I have I think I have some good news, I have some bad news, and I have a couple of confessions to make of things that I hate to admit. So I'll try to do this very, very quickly. I think the good news, this is a map of essentially global run of some sort of measure of water availability, water that's available to use for humans throughout the world. If you look at the map, blue is more, less blue is less. Latin America is water rich, so that's something that we knew. So most simulation prediction models are telling us things we already know, like this. I have another map that accompanies this, that actually it's now a measure of water scarcity around the world. And when you look at this map, and this is a ratio of demands versus supply. This is how much we're using water versus how much water is available. When you look at this map, then you realize also things we already know, is that Latin America is privileged in terms of water availability. There's less water scarcity in Latin America and the Caribbean compared to the rest of the world. The question is, what do we do with this information, okay? One of the things that's sort of embedded in these two maps, the map of availability and the map of demand, so to speak, is that actually water scarcity, and this is one of the things that I hate to admit, water scarcity is not really driven, for the most sense, by climate change. I'm a hydrologist. It's incredibly difficult to admit, because hydrologists for over 2 decades have been trying to tell you that climate change is going to significantly alter runoff worldwide. We have not been able to do this. And this is very hard to admit. That doesn't mean that climate change doesn't affect water availability. It means that globally, it doesn't affect the amount of water that's available. If you look at specific places, yes, some places will get drier, some places will get wetter, but as a whole, water pretty much appears to be there. Okay. The other thing that's embedded here is that really water scarcity is driven by humans, is driven by demand. So it's the amount of water we consume that's creating water scarcity in these parts of the world. Particularly if you look at that belt over here, I think there's a pointer. This is where most of the critical water areas go. We're not going to talk about this today because this is Latin America, but it's actually a useful thing to note. Over the next few weeks and over the next few months, the United Nations is going to issue some Sustainable Development Goals, and also they're going to be issuing what are called new Shared Sustainable Pathways, SSPs. These are going to replace the old climate scenarios, the A1 and the A1B, that no one really understood what they meant, B1, B2, A12. Those are going to be replaced by SSP1s through SSP5s. So these are now sort of visions of the future, of possible futures for the world. If you look at each of these shared sustainable pathways globally, you will see this is the culprit. This is water demand. These are water withdrawals. Every single one of these scenarios tells you something, that we already know. Jaime Holguin was just mentioning this. Agriculture is the big water consumer. And no matter how we shape this, no matter what future we envision, water use by agriculture is going to continue to be a major driver for pressuring water use. And it's going to be a major driver for water scarcity. So if we're going to fix something in the next 20 to 30 years, that is what we need to look at, water for agriculture. And that takes us to at least the water-food part of the nexus. The other piece that's actually pretty relevant is that green there, which is energy used by water. It's also pretty significant, and you can also notice the orange band there, that's municipal water supply. That's the water and sanitation services. So now the question is, with this information, if this information is available, okay, what do you do globally? We won't discuss that today, but what do you do in Latin America? If Latin America is relatively water-rich compared to the rest of the world, it's not just about water security for the region, it's also about using water as a competitive advantage with respect to the rest of the world. How do you leverage your water availability to be more competitive, to provide the food and the energy for other parts of the world, which we're already doing? And the last thing I'll say, and this takes me to my second confession of things I hate to admit, is that I'd like to tell you that the solution to the water resources problem in Latin America is technical, it's scientific, because that's my background, it's what I do, but it's not. It's human. It's how we manage water that's going to create a difference. That's why the point of demand is incredibly important. Managing demand, managing risk. How do you leverage that? So I'll leave you with just a thought. I mean, if you have access to this information, if you have access to maps like this or like this, not only for water, but we have the ability today to make these maps for food production, for energy generation, and when we speak about food, we can make this map like this for every crop around the world. If you had this information at the tip of your hands, would you be able to make better decisions? And what I posit now is that right now we're unprepared to make better decisions if we have better information. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Fernando. And by the way, I'd encourage you in the audience to think about questions that you might have for our